Hello, this is Read a Book a Month with Kiitan. This is my month of birth and I'm excited and I'm grateful for life. This month of October we read Married for Life, Build a Marriage That Lasts a Lifetime by Scot and Adetoyese-Oyedun. Chapter 1 talked about the last fight you will ever have. Nearly every marriage that ends in divorce happens because of one last fight. Usually it is an accumulation of many fights, but it's that one last fight that takes the marriage over the edge and ends it once and for all. In this book, the authors highlight the following: the source of all arguments, the needs of a man, and no, they are not just sleep, food, and sex. How each of our needs complements the needs of the other. Ultimately, we need each other. How easy it is to live a life meeting the needs of our spouse, and that in meeting these needs, we stir up the fire of passion in our marriage. How meeting our spouse's needs helps meet our own needs. That sometimes our relationship needs an argument. Learn how to argue in a constructive way. How to get in and out of an argument in 5 minutes and eliminate most of the dumb fights. How to forgive. How to control emotions before, during, and after a fight. How not to fight even when your spouse really wants to. Chapter 2, your greatest battle will always be you. There is only one person in the world you have the power to change, and that is you. You can't change your spouse. The biggest problem in marriages today is that there are two people who are trying to change the other person. If you change you will bring change to your spouse. A great marriage takes work, time, and effort. Chapter 3, stop fighting yourself, the source of all fights. There is always a button in you that, when triggered, leads to a fight. When the button is pushed, you lose control and ready to fight. If you can recognize that button, it will be difficult to push and therefore eliminate most fights. There's only one force that controls that button, and that is fear. 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. What happens when the fear button in you gets pushed? You lose control of your emotions and your actions. You also lose control of what you say and what you do. If we don't allow that fear button to be pushed, we remain in control. We command how we respond, how we act, what we say, and what we do. You need to read this book to see how fear is responsible for your arguments and fights. Chapter 4, stead the relationship. Matthew 6:22-23 says, the eye is the lamp of the body. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. If your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. This scripture says what you choose to see determines how you feel. If you see all the things your spouse doesn't do, you will be filled with anger and bitterness. But if you can learn to see all that they do, you'll be happy and excited. Go back to when you were dating and madly in love. No matter what anyone said about your future spouse, you only saw the good, no matter what. All you could focus on was what you loved about them. During this time, your relationship was full of passion and excitement. Philippians 4:8, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. This means you should think only good thoughts. Do you want to get out of the emotions of anger from a fight fast? If yes, then just step back and go over everything you love about your spouse. Force your mind to think about the good. This concept is not just for your thought, but also for your words. What you say to yourself and to others. Make sure you only speak good words about your spouse. Chapter 5, the power of love. Life is best when you are loving. Love drives out fear. It drives out the root of all negative emotions. Love brings hope and faith, the root of all positive emotions. If you spend time refreshing your spouse, you in turn will be refreshed. It is a whole sowing and reaping thing. Give what you want, and in time, you will receive what you desire. Chapter 6, most important need of a woman. Husband, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Ephesians 5:25. Does Christ's love for the church depend upon what the church does for him? Does the church receive his love? No. Christ loved the church unconditionally. He loves the church because it exists. A woman's most important need is to be loved for who she is without needing to change a single thing. God put a need in her to be loved because she exists. A woman's greatest desire is for a man to lay down his life for her, even if she changes nothing. She wants to be the most important thing in his word. Men, if your wife sees that she's the most important thing in your word, she will find you irresistible. Chapter 7, 10 ways to value whole ball and chain. 10 ways to show her for she's the most important thing in your life. Chivalry, looking for ways to show the world how important your wife is to you. First fruit means she gets first and best of your time. Date night, take her out for dinner the way you used to do it before you had your first kid. Trips, plan a getaway twice a year. Protect her, talk good about her. Divorce is not an option. Gifts show her and those around her how truly valuable she is. Tell her she's important. Chapter 8 is high up a man's most important need. A woman needs to be valued for who she is. A man, on the other hand, needs to be valued for what he does. You do for her and she values what you do. This way you would have your most important needs met. Ephesians 5:33 says the wife must respect her husband. That word respect can also be translated as honoring or valuing his work. In other words, he values his effort in what he does. Women, if you can make your husband feel valuable for what he does, he will find you irresistible. He will do more for you than you could ever imagine. Chapter 9, 10 ways to make him feel valuable for what he does. I'm talking to the wife. Be proud of him. Tell others how proud of your husband you are. Encourage him, reward him, honor him, act like you couldn't survive without him. Be loyal to him, be quick to forgive, build him up before battle, believe in him. Chapter 10, why married people serve pancakes up to other people other than their spouse. There is just one reason why people get into extramarital affairs. A man's need is to be valued for what he does. His wife constantly lets him know all the things he doesn't do right. He sees himself as a middle-aged man who has not done anything with his life. Then there is this young lady who thinks he hung the moon. She's in awe of him and his cool sports car. She loves up to him. She's helpless and vulnerable. She, unlike his wife, needs him. Boom. An affair has been born, and it goes both ways. It could happen to a woman too. A good person can fall into an affair, a life-destroying trap. A lot of affairs could have been prevented if husbands and wives took the time to meet each other's needs. It doesn't take a lot, a few words, a date, a little time with each other. If you look all the time you spend fighting and use just 1/10 of that time meeting each other's needs, you will have a great marriage. Chapter 11, wow and be wowed. This chapter talked about tips for men to help their wives feel beautiful. Grab any chance you can to tell how beautiful she is. Don't wait for her to ask. Whenever your wife walks into the room, stop what you're doing. When you do this, you'll be meeting both her needs to be the most important thing in your life. When you're at church or a party, let your wife catch you staring at her from across the room. Take an interest in what your wife is wearing. When your wife is talking, nothing else matters. No cell phones, no texting, no kids, no distraction. And tips for ladies, be captivating. If you are going out, put some time into it. If you look better when you go out with your friends than with your husband, you need to change. Flirt with him. It is the gift God gave you. Ladies, make your outer appearance important to you. Don't forget the inner beauty too. Chapter 12, I hope is open 24 hours. The author told a story of how someone harassed him on the queue to buy a coffee and God told him to pay for the person's drink. He struggled and he said no, and God told him to love his enemies. He paid and the guy came to say thank you for buying his drink. He linked that story to loving someone when maybe you don't feel like, and doing something for someone simply because it is the right thing to do. This is saying even when you don't feel like having sex with your husband, know this: men need a lot and lots of sex. Sex to men is like food is to the human body. What happens if you go a few days without food? You get a little cranky, and a fear is never okay, but he can be tempted to feed outside if you deny him. 1 Corinthians 7:3-5 says, let the husband render to his wife the affection due to her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. 5. Do not deprive one another except with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer and come together again, so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Ladies, understand this: if your husband doesn't get fed by you on a daily basis, he will still eat. That is a fact. Don't push him to do any ungodly things just because you can't feed him. It is not a chore. It is what the Lord wants you to do as husband and wife. Chapter 13. You are in. Now get out. How many marriages fail because they are not prepared? How many fights go on forever because you have two people who are not prepared? There is a need for great preparation before going into marriage. All fights are birthed out of fear. We get rid of fear by injecting love into the situation. As a rule of thumb, injecting love should be your first action to get out of a fight, because love conquers all. Forgive in advance. And how do you get rid of unforgiveness? Love. Inject some love into it. Love always drives out fear. The secret to this is pray for those who hurt you. It could be hard, but over time, it gets easier and easier. Chapter 14. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What is the fuel that starts a fight? Emotions. Yes, emotions. Keep your emotions under control. Marriage is about picking your battles, finding out what is worth fighting for, and deciding what is really no big deal. It's about accepting one another's good qualities and those annoying qualities. Many fights can be avoided if we simply become aware of our tone and attitude. The way in which we respond to each other is probably responsible for over 75% of fights in homes. Work on your tone, inflection, attitude, and response. This will keep you out of most fights. If your spouse is cranky in any way, find a way to make him or her happy. Go over to your spouse, hold or kiss him or her. It could be that action that will snap him or her out of the grumpy mood. Don't get discouraged if you mess up. It is called life. You should get excited that you have the opportunity to be better tomorrow. Marriage is a lot of work, and it's like anything you work hard for. A life with the person God gave you that is full of joy and passion is surely worth the effort. No one says marriage will be easy, but those who work hard and learn how to get along will tell you that marriage is made up of the best things life has to offer. They say that happily ever after is for real, and it can be this way for you and your spouse if you make it so. I want to appreciate Scott and Adetoyese-Oyedun for writing this wonderful book. I pray for new wine in your marriage every day in Jesus' name. More grace. In November, we'll be reading a book by Barbara Hughes, Disciplines of a Godly Woman. You can find it on Amazon. I hope that Read a Book a Month with Kiitan series has been a blessing to you. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to this channel, like the video, press the notification bell, and share with others. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you in November by God's grace. Bye.